Welcome back, guys. So, Tarindu, before we talk about the next topic, I would like to take this opportunity to thank everyone who helped us to get to this event and make this a success. Not only the conference, but also the expo as well. So, especially our platinum sponsor, Marina Square, then our gold sponsors, then our partners, Viral Media, Magic Space, then Storm Media, and all other partners that who have joined with us for this event, especially our staff, Lanka Property Web staff, who has been dedicatedly working day and night throughout the past 2 weeks to get this thing a success.
Yes, of course, Isuru. Without them, we couldn't done in this magnitude of event. And this is our third day, and this is our final session. So we have come to a conclusion. And to get into our final topic, we have Mr. Saminda Jayasekara, who's a well-known veteran lawyer in Sri Lanka, and he has many decades of experience in real estate market and in legal aspects, and who is currently holding the position in as a commission member in the condominium law review committee appointed by the Minister of Justice. And he's a chairman of Colombo Project Consultants Private Limited, and again he has held many group director legal positions in large conglomerates in the real estate industry in Sri Lanka. Over to you, Mr. Saminda.
Thank you very much, Tarindu, for the opportunity. Today we are discussing the preparing and executing of the rental agreement. So that is our topic. Initially, we'll discuss what is a rental agreement. Very simply, that you can say it is an agreement prepared for a property giving on rent. The property may be an apartment or house or shop or office or whatever the condition. That is the agreement between the owner, that who owns that property, and the occupier, that you can say tenant or lessee or whoever, that who's taking that that premises for a certain period. For that, the owner wanted some legal binding agreement with the person who's occupying that premises. That is called a rental agreement. Basically, this agreement including many parts. So simply we can say that firstly, the deed of transfer, it is the details of the parties. Parties means the owner of the property, who's the owner's full name, NIC number or passport, and the address. If it's the owner, may be a limited liability company, then the company name, registered address, and the registration number. Then the tenant or lessee or occupier, that may be a company or individual, then the relevant address, NIC passport number or the business registration number, and the address. Then what are the terms and conditions agreed by the parties? That may be that is basically based on the discussions and the negotiation going with parties, and rights and obligations of the owner as well as the occupier. And the very especially that we are maintaining that part is the essential part of the agreement, that is how to terminate the contract. Then we have to discuss what are the types of the rental agreements. In the modern world, that we can see there are two types of rental agreements. The first type is the lease agreement. The other one is the tenancy agreement. In a lease agreement, it's the parties are identified as the lessor and the lessee. Obviously, lessor is the owner of the property who's giving to a party of the premises. Then the lessee is the person that who's going to occupy in that premises. It's that lease agreements mostly we are using in long-term fixed contracts, and the termination clause and many other clauses will be decided by the negotiation by parties. And especially the lease agreement, that you have to have a notary public who has to attest that agreement, and that it will be issued a number also by the notary, and then the copy of the lease agreements will be registered and will be kept in the relevant land registry. In return, tenancy agreement is, and sometimes mostly that people call it a monthly tenancy. That is that the parties are identified as landlord and tenant, that we call landlord to the owner of the property, and the tenant will be the occupier of the property. And mostly this will be used for shorter terms. We'll say if it's for the 3 months or 2 months, 1 month, like that, shorter terms. And most of time that is that's why that we call that monthly tenancy. Say with the notice of the 1 month period, that term can be ended. They also end of the first term, that even another tenancy agreement that the parties can reach, maybe the earlier rent or some amended rent, like that. That is not a fixed thing, and that you can't expect long-term benefit from these kind of agreements. But in the lease agreements, that you are sure about your property, that the proper income, proper period, and longer in a longer period. That if you compare these two agreements, the more reliable agreements is a lease agreement, although that the reliability is more important in agreement. And because of that, always that the lawyers and the paternity in the legal profession, that they recommended lease agreements rather than tenancy agreements. But however, at the end of the day, that what is the agreement is going to enter will be decided by the owner of the property. Right. Then we'll discuss the rights of both parties, the owner and the occupier. Basically, that always the giving property to somebody by the owner, the main purpose is collecting some money and earn some income. Then the first right of the owner is the right to collect the security deposit, monthly rental, and advance rental according to the agreement. So security deposit is a deposit that the owner is collecting from the occupier. It is for securing, say, that whatever is there any damages to the property end of the period, that he has to have some money to recover those things. Also, that if he is not paying utility bills regularly, there are some unsettled utility bills that he has to have some money. For those purposes, that the owner is keeping some security deposit. Also, sometimes that the owner is asking some advance rentals, which will be deducted monthly from the tenant or lessee, or that it will be deducted in the last few months of the period. And as well as the monthly rental, that monthly rental may be part of the monthly, maybe sometimes monthly rental will be fully charged by the owner from these people, or sometimes part of that coming monthly and balance part coming from the advance rental. Right. Then the owner has the right to determine what type of occupancy and number of occupants in the premises. For a say, for an example, that I have an apartment of 3 bedroom, then if I am the owner, that I'll decide I'll give this thing to you, but maximum you and your family members, 4 members only or 5 members only. That thing I can, because the owner, that I am the owner, that I have the authority to decide that how many people that the occupy in the premises. Then if the tenant or lessee is not agreed to my terms, then he can say no, I am not agreed. Then there will be no agreement. Then as well as whether it's for the commercial purpose or residential purpose, even in the commercial purpose, what kind of commercial purpose, maybe for office or maybe for a shop or whatever the things, those things can be determined by the owner. Then also say during the period there might be some due to negligent or illegal activities done by the occupier, the owner sometimes suffering from those incidents. That is, say that I can remember very recently that actually that's one of the innocent owner gave one of the apartment on rent to some party, that finally that the police came, and that point only he knew that it was a drug dealer. Then the few years that the apartment is closed, and that the owner is don't know when he can get the occupation, or sometimes that he might suffer from the legal suits also by the police or CID or whoever. Then that you have to especially include in this agreement that the owner is indemnifying whatever the negligent or illegal activities done by the occupier. And another right is, say that he has to right to inspect the property. Of course, that you have to keep in mind that you are respecting the privacy of the tenant or the lessee. Therefore, with the prior appointment, however, you have to have a right to go your premises, check whether it's occupying very well, keeping well-being, and those things. Then right to terminate the agreement. Basically, when that if he notices that the tenant or occupier is breaching any one of the terms of the agreement, then definitely he has to have right to immediately terminate the agreement and take the possession from the person. Then we have to talk about the right of the occupier also. The main right is that he has to have the legal peaceful possession of the premises throughout the period without any obstacle from the owner, or maybe owner or his agents or employees or whoever, that have to give the right to occupation without any disturb. That is the golden rule in the rent agreement. Also, that he has the liberty to use that the rented premises address for his business purposes or personal matters. Will say that he has to give the address to that his daughters or son's school, or some bank statement or whatever things. Then he has the liberty to use that address as his occupied address. Then another thing is that if there are any other facilities enjoyed by the owner earlier as a part and parcel of the premises, then those things also assigned to the occupier. That for a example, that say that if I am the owner of the apartment complex in Colombo, in that apartment complex that there's a swimming pool, there's a gym, and there are some other facilities which can used by the occupant of that building. Then if I am renting out my apartment to somebody, along with that rent agreement, that person not only getting the premises, that he is getting the enjoyment of that the swimming pool, gym, and whatever the facilities. And from that day until that the lease period is ending, that the owner is no more enjoyable of those facilities. That is that we have to always think about that you can't rent the premises and continuing the enjoying the other facilities which are going along with the rented place. Then that while we are talking about the rights, that always that in any agreement, that always we have to talk about the obligations of the parties. That we have to talk firstly, we'll talk the obligations of the owner. The first obligation is, earlier also we talk about this thing and the discussion, grant the peaceful occupation and not to disturb him. And other thing is that the owner has to warrant and defend the title of the property. It means say that if I am a tenant, that I am going to this premises and I'm paying my good money, security deposit, advance rentals and everything, and I moved all my belongings to premises to live there for a period of 1 year. Say in the next week, if somebody come into that premises and telling that tenant, hey, this is my premises, how do you come to this place? You are not authorized to this thing. In that moment, that definitely he has to talk to the owner. Owner has to defend the title and defend the tenant also. Always that his obligation throughout this period, he has to warrant and defend the title of the property, and he has to have a proper clear title to the property to give on rent. That is one of the golden rule in this area. And he has to pay the assessment rates and taxes to the relevant local authority, maybe Colombo Municipal Council or Kotte Municipal Council, wherever. That is his duty. Although somebody is occupying the premises, he has to pay assessment tax to the local authority. Top of that, that if you are living in an apartment complex, you know that for maintenance of the swimming pool and gym, say servicing the common lift generators and those things, paying your staff salaries, including security and janitorial staff and the management staff, they are charging some service charges from the apartment. That this obligation of paying that service charge always be with the owner. Maybe some cases categorically he is passing that to the tenant, and tenant also agreed to take on that. If that is not the case, in a normal scenario, that is, say that paying service charge in a condominium complex, or maybe some housing complex, that some homeowners association, they have some common properties to, maybe it's a gated community and they have a security guard that sharing the security bill and so and so. In those kind of things also have to pay it by the owner, and he has to attend all major repairs and the structural changes to the premises. Those things that will say that you are giving the property to somebody, and that during that period there's a major repair coming in the rooftop roof area, or have to change some build some special area or something like. Always then tenant has to tell you, then the owner has to attend to those areas. Then thereafter, after the termination of the agreement, say whatever the security refund and whatever the security deposit, after deducting any of the deductible, legally deductible things only, then you have to refund the security deposit. And if it's a early termination, then whatever the unutilized advance rentals, you have to pay back to the occupier. That also one of the obligations. Then obligation of the occupier. So basically those are the, that if you get the lease agreements, the majority of the clauses are covering this part, and that is obvious because the during the continuation of this period, the tenant or lessee is the person who's looking after the property, who's living in the property. Say that that obligations, that simply that you can tell few things. The first thing is that pay the security deposit, advance rental and the monthly rentals timely manner. Also you have to pay whatever the utility bills in the premises, that namely you can say water, electricity, telephone, internet, whatever the cable television. In apartment complexes you have special gas facilities, gas metering, and those things they have to pay timely. Then another clause is, during the period you cannot sublet or sublease the premises or part of the premises without written permission from the owner. That is very, very important, because he is giving the property to you and not for somebody else's. Say that there might be cases that you might think that after coming to this place, this is too big for me. Then you have to first get the permission from the owner, then only you can rent it out one room or part of that to somebody else. Then how to maintain and keep the premises in the clean and sanitary state according to the rules and regulations of the local government authority of your area. And again, that you have to indemnify owner from any negligent act or any illegal act or any act against the sanitary state of the area, that the say that the lessee or tenants indemnifying the owner from those acts. Then as well as that while you are occupying a property which is not owned by you, you have to keep the whatever the fixtures, fittings, furniture, everything in very good order and not to make any alteration there. Also, you have to attend minor and small repairs during the period. Say that we'll say that you have to have change a bulb or that say broken tap or those things for small these kind of things. You can't refer to your landlord to please do those things. That for those things that he has to attend, and those clauses have to be clearly mentioned in the lease agreement. Then especially the agreement said or not, you cannot carry out any illegal or immoral activity within the premises. Also, as earlier we discussed, the usage of the premises shall be limited to permissible activity, maybe residential or commercial. In a commercial law, whatever the commercial activity, you have to have limited for that activity. Then the another important clause is termination. Say that say as per normal law that if it is a sign for the agreement signed for 2 years, end of 2 years there is nothing to say that passing any notice or informing other party that end of 2 years period you have to hand over the property and it will be automatically terminated. Then you are handing over the property that owner have to refund the refundable deposit after deducting any of the claims that what we mentioned earlier. Also, the parties can premature terminate the agreement according to the terms and conditions in the agreement. We'll say that there might be a clause saving in the lease agreement. Say that the one party serving the other party 2 months notice prior to automatically termination of the agreement. We'll say the agreement is 2 years. After 6 months that I'm tenant, that I decide this place is not suitable for me, then I'll serve the whatever the notice according to the agreement. Then the owner has to agree to that letter of termination. Then after that period, then he has to pay the whatever the deposit, and is there any unutilized rentals, those things he has to pay. Or in all and most of the agreement it says, then it should be there this clause. Say if the person that who's occupying the premises breaches any of the terms and conditions of the agreement, the owner has to write to terminate the agreement immediately and retake the possession. That whatever the clause that you are referring, that at the termination the owner has to refund whatever the deposit he had taken from the person that who's occupying the premises. Say that this is the part that especially we are discussing and always we are trying to avoid, that the ejectment or legal remedy. It means if the person that who came on rent, that there might be two instances. First instance is after completion of the period he is not leaving the premises, that is first one. Then number two is, that is the most disaster thing, say during the course of the period that the owner is identifying that he is breaching one or many of the terms and conditions of the agreement, or he is doing some immoral or illegal activity in the premises, then he is asking him to vacate the premises, then he is not vacating the premises. In both situations If he is not vacating the premises, the only remedy is that you have to go to the district court of the relevant area and file a case. It's called rent ejectment case. Then you have to go through the normal legal proceedings of the country. Or even that you can do another thing, if it is only for a commercial purpose, that if you have given, then you can get a restraining order from courts, say that it state that the person is stopping by doing some commercial activities in the premises. That's also possible. But however, say Sri Lankan court system and the court procedure is very much actually not user friendly thing, and it's a timely consuming matter. Therefore, always it's advisable to avoid legal suits and always try to settle any matter between party by amicably settling whatever the issues between the parties. And the best remedy is, first you have to evaluate your possible tenant, say that you can check his so that company's background, that where he came from, whether it's a company, then the reputed company, say that the say his earlier background, earlier occupation record, and whatever things you try to get it, then you can check and you can think and you can give your property. That's the best thing, rather than giving the property for nobody, then finally ending up in the court. Okay, those are the things that I have to discuss with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Aminda, for your insightful sharings to our landlords who are willing to be willing to rent out their properties. And there are questions we have received, and we will go through them. And first question is received from Mr. Michael. He's asking, I have rented my apartment and my tenant is bringing his friends to stay in the apartment. What shall I do? Can I limit the number of people living in my property? I think this is a very common problem with most of the landlords.
Yes, Tarindu, that the very simple answer is yes, that the property is yours, that you are the owner of that property. You can decide what are the terms and conditions of your agreement. Say that you can limit in the agreement, you can clearly say that this property can occupied by you and only your family, or only you, or that your friend, that they say that, or you and your servants, like that. The whatever the way you can decide and you can determine those things in your agreement. There is no restrictions saying that you give somebody and that he can bring 10 or 15 or whatever amount of people to the apartment and enjoying and partying. Those things you can restrict in agreement, and that if he breaches that condition in the agreement, then you are getting a right to immediately terminate the agreement also.
Yes, and Mr. Pereira is asking, can I accept dated checks for rent and it is legal?
Actually, yes, dated check is say you can you can accept dated check, and you are submitting on the relevant date to the bank. Then it is not the dated check to say that you can accept. There is no issue, but but you have to keep in mind, say that although you are keeping the dated check in your docket, that is you can't rely on those things, because that you have to understand that it is just a paper. It will affected only once you submitted your bank and if it is honored. But you as a easy measure, you can take dated checks, and whenever that the date comes, you can deposit in your bank. That say depositing the check in the correct date in the bank is not illegal. You can do that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Amin. And there's one more question we will go through that also, because due to the time constraint, we might not be able to enter in all the questions. And what I'll do is I'll forward all the questions to Ms. Saminda, so you be able to send them a reply in person.
Yes, that can do.
Okay, Ms. Saminda. So the Mr. Yoganathan is asking, I have rented the house without an agreement. Can I form an agreement now?
Yes, Mr. Yoganathan. Actually, the agreement may be say that there are instances that say that from 1st of January that you are giving on rent, and but then you are signing the agreement maybe from 20th of January or maybe 1st of February. That is possible. There is no restrictions that say you have to sign the agreement prior to the commencement of the period. There is no issue like that. You can do, but always that even that is say that even having agreement in latter part is so much better than giving the property without the agreement. Please do
exactly. Yes. Thank you, Mr. Saminda. And I think there were a lot of points that for the landlords got to know that when doing their rental agreements. And we wish you well, Mrs. Saminda, and thank you very much for joining with us today and sharing your experience. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Karin. Thank you for giving this opportunity. All the best for you.
Thank you, Tarindu, and thank you, Mr. Saminda, for another session. And once again, I would like to thank everyone, especially the speakers who have actually, I forgot to thank them when I was thanking the other members who have helped us. So especially the speakers who devoted their time when it comes to this event, because half an hour of each of their time is a very valuable set of I mean, it's the mind, you know. So I once again, I would really humbly thank them all for being with us for these 3 days and devoting their time. And even we got people from overseas joining us with us to talk to you guys and speak on this topic. So I once again, I thank every one of them to devoting this time on these 3 days.
Yes, Isuru, as you said, without our partners, especially our platinum partner and gold partners, so without them, we could have done this kind of event for 3 days consecutively. And this is our first time we are having a conference in our virtual property show, and we used to have this Lanka Property Show physical event throughout, and due to the COVID-19, we had to move it to this new way of conferencing. We are having a virtual property show, then again we are having a virtual conference. And I would like to thank all our presenters who you know spare their time for us and gave a lot of insights and experience of them in sharing this event. Over to you, Suru.
Yes, actually, when we talk about the Lanka Property Show, we were actually planning to have both the physical event and the virtual event as simultaneously, but unfortunately, we were unable to do with the current situation in the country. But we definitely think that in the future, maybe October or November, we might have another chance. Let's see how it goes, and hopefully we could continue this. Or else, anyway, next year we in February or March we will, and we be doing the virtual thing as well. And with, if the situation permits, we will have again the chance to have both the physical and the virtual event together. So without any further discussions, I would like to end this session. Once again, thanking everyone who have joined with us, who have supported, who have come here to speak with us, the sponsors, and everyone who even the names I couldn't tell here, everyone who has supported. Yes, thank you once again, and goodbye to you all, and see you to hope to see you in another session like this, something new, something different in the future. Thank you.